Yes, guys, welcome to Chasing Green Arrows. We're back. It's Tuesday. We are looking ahead to what is going to be a big week of FPL. It's probably the really big opportunity now to get gains. 37. 38 will be 2, but 37 massively so. And I'm joined by regular co-hosts on our midweek specials with Big Man. Backer, Big Man, how are you, mate?
Hey, Johnny. Hello and welcome to all the listeners and viewers. Thanks for having me. Hope all is going well. I'm good. Uh, yeah, we're sort of entering that end of season territory where we're sort of, especially those people who wildcard in 35, there are
Yeah.
not too many big decisions to make. We're sort of now in auto cruise mode. I'm similar. I don't have much to do with my team. But having said that, this week is going to be pivotal because this is like the big week, as you say, with the bench boost active, with so many fixtures to come. This is the big week where you can still end up making ground if you're trailing your rivals or end up sealing your mini league if you're already leading. So I think even though this week does not exactly feel huge in terms of decision making, it is going to be pivotal in deciding the overall rank and the how the mini leagues go.
I agree. I definitely think so. I mean, we'll talk way more about it later, but I'm a bit disappointed in a way, despite going there, that Haaland got 4 goals. Because if Haaland had blanked against Wolves, and we all had him captain, so it didn't really make a difference to our rank, score or not score, then this week would have been a real captaincy conundrum with Spurs playing Burnley at home. But I mean, now Haaland's got his 4 goals. And given the fixtures, the fact that Fulham may have down tools, I mean, even Dean, who says never really doesn't ever expect teams to score big at Craven Cottage, he was like, he's not even sure if he's going to go at the weekend. It's Fulham season ticket holder Dean. He thinks Man City will have a convincing win. And then they go to Spurs, 2 away games. It's Haaland captain again, isn't it, big man? And maybe 38 is the opportunity to go a little differently on a Salah or a Havertz.
I mean, it is kind of obvious. Having said that, I think going against Haaland in 38 is going to be equally risky.
Yeah,
to be
West
very
Ham
honest,
at home.
because
Yeah.
West Ham at home, City going for the title, Haaland playing for the Golden Boot. There's so many narratives, and I was in form as well, so it's going to be very hard to overlooking. I think we're probably going to be having the same conversation in Game Week 38 that Haaland looks obvious, he's done well. Do we really go against him? I mean, if anyone is willing to go against him, I think the risks. Personally, I'm sitting at a comfortable rank. I don't really have much to play for. And with the bench boost active, with a reasonably decent team, I'm expecting to make gains elsewhere. So I don't really have to go different for captaincy. But if let's say you're trailing by a big margin and you have to overcome a deficit, then I guess the risks, and you can go with someone. You can go against Holland, but it's not something that I would personally advise. And I would definitely not feel comfortable with it. I mean, I hate the idea of captaining someone other than Haaland in a single game week, let alone in a double game week. So I can completely sort of see that why it is something that is that's a suboptimal.
Yeah, Fatal TY in the chat is top of the Chasing Green Arrows mini league at overall rank 7-1-5. That is amazing work, mates. Being in the
crazy.
top 1,000, that is unbelievable this season as well. It does feel like every season this game gets harder and harder because there's more and more engaged managers. Like, I've been having green arrows of late. My rank was around 55, 58k, has been for a few weeks. And I get what I think are big green arrows. And actually, I only go up a couple of K each time. So, now I'm at 48k or whatever it is, and I've had 4 greens on the bounce from 58k, but it's just small gains because it's so tight and so competitive, and there's so many good managers. So to be at 1,000 rank is unbelievable. We've got FPL Chai in the house. Chai, how are you not in our mini league, mate? Because you would be top, because Chai's around a couple of hundred in the world, and was second in the world at one.
He's probably too big for us, Johnny. He's probably too big for us. Has more bigger fish to fry.
He must be. Although he did take the floor just down there when he slept round 2 nights ago. I had Chai sleeping in this very room for 2 nights. He came and visited me, which was awesome. Loads of fun. I don't know how in the 2 nights Chai stayed round here, we didn't do a stream together. We both have our own channels. We're both regulars on Chasing Green Arrows. And we just couldn't make it work. We were just too busy having too much fun. But next time we'll definitely do a joint stream. That was fun.
Johnny, how's your week? I mean, how was your week? What are your plans for the next week? Are you sort of still semi-engaged into the season, or have you sort of checked out?
I am semi-engaged because I'm making content. I would say I would have checked out if it wasn't for being content creation. I'd be
Oh,
just 10 minutes on a Friday for the last couple of weeks, but I'm not 10 minutes on a Friday because I am producing material. I have just recorded a team selection video for my channel, which will go out probably tomorrow or Wednesday. So this morning I spent a ton of time looking at my team. And I think I know what I'm doing for the next few weeks. I mean, one guy I really want to get is Mo Salah for 38, and I've figured out how I can do it. And I don't want to. It's not set in stone by any stretch, but I'm thinking boring this week. Maguire to Igor, for example, at Brighton, and then next week that gives me enough funds to make 3 transfers, which could involve Son out, Bruno out, Gordon out. 3 good assets, selling them all to get Salah, Havertz, and an enabler for the bench. There's big dilemmas on the bench next week anyway. Like I could have benched a Bruno or a Son or a Gordon.
wait.
Go on.
Wait. Are you really selling Son before Sheffield United in 38?
Strong possibility, yeah. Strong possibility.
That is very ballsy.
Salah at home on it potentially his final game at Anfield and certainly Klopp's final game versus Wolves or Son on the road to Sheffield United, who are playing their last game in the Premier League for a long time. I mean, yes, Spurs are going to win that football match, but I don't think they win it 5-0.
I think because it's their last day in the Premier League, they're going to have a full swing at it, and that's going to leave spaces on the break. I think it will be a high-scoring game. I expect both teams to score. I think there's a very high possibility of Son coming close to Salah, not necessarily outscoring him, but coming close to him. I don't know. I'm not sure whether I'll be making that move for a hit for sure, because I'm expecting Spurs to go big in Game Week 38. I think that's a great fixture for their attackers.
It is. I'll give you that. It is. But it doesn't get me Salah. My only route to Salah is selling Son because of money.
I mean, if you want to have a swing at it, that's fine. It's the last game week of the season.
Then get a swing
at
Havertz. It also then allows me Havertz instead of a Bruno. And again, I don't need Bruno or Gordon. 2 away trips, Brighton and Brentford, tough.
Yeah, but straight away, I mean, what this sort of this sort of brings to my attention is that our plans will be vastly different from what I hear. Which will make in 38 and even this week, I think, because it'll make for an interesting discussion.
Are you looking at Richarlison this week then?
I am very, very high on Richarlison. I'm not looking at him. I'm very, very high on him. I think there's a very good possibility that I buy Richarlison for Bruno this week. I mean, Bruno is fine. He could do well. I expect him to be fit. Even if he's unfit, I think I'll still sell him for Richarlison, because at this stage of the season, you will not get a better differential than Richarlison playing at home to Burnley and then away to Sheffield United in 2 weeks. I know he has City in between, but I'm not exactly bothered about that because I'm targeting the other 2 fixtures.
Yeah.
And in those 2 fixtures, I think that he will outscore the likes of Bruno. And that's exactly why I'm thinking of making that move. He'll be a differential. I don't think many people will go there because a lot of people have other fires to put out.
They've got 3 Spurs already.
Either that or they have other fires to put out. For example, injuries to Maguire, Cher, all these guys have made it very difficult for people to focus their transfers elsewhere. I've been very lucky and fortunate in terms of having a fully fit squad since Game Week 35. And I mean, I don't really have high hopes from United, to be very honest. I think going Richarlison is fine. And I'm currently ranked 16K. I'm very happy with my finish of the season, but I sort of want to have that one final push for the top 10K. And I think Richarlison is exactly the kind of differential I need to back to help me get there. He served me well earlier in the season. So I want to be loyal to him, and I'll go back to him again.
I genuinely am very jealous, because if I was you and I could get there to Richarlison for Bruno in a straight swap, that would also be my transfer. Transfer.
What is stopping you though? Have you got any injuries?
I've got Maguire. So that's one transfer I have to make. And then I've got triple Spurs. So I've got both the things that would put you off making that move. I could still make it. I have looked at it. I do have an option of going Maguire out to Igor or Webster still. Or Dunk if I'm not going Salah. The only reason I'm not looking at Dunk is I'm saving funds for Salah. And then I can go Vicario to Onana. And then for a 4-point hit, Bruno to Richarlison. I'd
Richarlison.
need to sell a Spurs asset, which as well as
That's
Maguire.
a tricky one.
The other
That's a
option
tricky
is
call, I see.
I go no 4-point hit and Son to Richarlison and Maguire to Webster or Igor.
No, straight away, I don't like that
can't sell
idea.
Son.
I mean, personally, all the ideas that we've been discussing, I am extremely set on keeping Son for game week 37 and 38, irrespective of what happens. I'm not necessarily looking at Salah in 38 because I'm very comfortable with Haaland as a captain, and I think the likes of Son away to Sheffield United or Saka at home to Everton can come close to matching Salah, who's also at home to West Ham. So it's fine. I mean, I don't really view Salah as like someone I must get in 38. I think he's going to be a fine owner and he's going to be a good differential captain for those who are chasing. But I don't really want to break my team to go there.
Yeah. No, I hear that. The other option is for me, for 38 is I could keep a Son and just sell a Gordon or a Bruno to a different Liverpool mid. I do want Salah, but we're going to get team leaks. We're going to know who's starting. The likes of Luis Diaz could still be a fun punt on the final day. Maybe. We do have a super chat in from Saleh. Saleh, thank you for joining us. And guys, please do hit those buttons, likes and subscribes. Saleh says, and we'll come to you on this one, big man, the best Maguire replacements. We should address that because for those that have little money in the bank, for those that have a lot of Spurs players, a lot of Chelsea, Newcastle, Man City players, where do you go? I'm just looking at this team to see if you've got the 3 City, 3 Chelsea, and 3 Spurs. I think you got 3 City in there already. You've got 3 Chelsea already because you've got Jackson and Palmer, and you've got probably 3 Newcastle. Have you got 3? No, you haven't. I'd go to a Newcastle defender. What would you do, big man?
Yeah, Johnny, before I come to that, firstly, thank you for the super chat. And I'd also like to mention that you mentioned that, in 38, you can, have that free transfer. I think having 2 free transfers is going to be very, very useful because historically we've seen in Game Week 38 that, a lot of teams are on the beach that don't have much to play for. And it is exactly that kind of week, which can be random in terms of team selections. So having a spare free transfer to address anything that comes up or any immediate pressing concerns would be nice because all the games are at the same time and we're likely to have team leaks before the deadline. So it's going to be very handy. Coming to the United defense, I mean, I've sort of been lucky to have Dalot. A lot of people are considering moving away from him. I have zero expectations from him, I'll be very honest. But I still don't think it's worth selling him because the majority of the other defenders don't necessarily appeal, especially if you got Triple City. If you have the luxury of jumping from, let's say, a Maguire or Dalot to a Guardiola, I think it would make a lot of sense. But I don't think a lot of people have that luxury. So I personally don't think it's worth selling Dalot. If you have him, I think you've just made your bed. You play him this week for 2 or 3 points. None of the other defenders playing in the double game week appeal anyway.
Yeah.
Coming to Maguire, which is the question that Saleh has asked. Maguire, I think this also applies to Share as well. A lot of people have shared. I think Guardiola will be my number 1 replacement if you can afford to get there with Triple City. If not, then I would probably look at Dan Burn. The thing, I think in isolation, a Spurs defender is slightly better than Dan Burn, but the very fact that going for someone like a Dan Burn makes it easier for you to get Richarlison is why I would rather go with Burn because, as mentioned earlier, I have Richarlison in all my plans in 37 and 38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why I prefer having that Spurs slot available. If you're not that keen on Richarlison, then you can go with Van der Ven or Romero. That's perfectly fine. I mean, Romero is probably the best option due to his goal threat. Apart from that, assuming that you've already have Burn and let's say if you already have Triple City, I would probably look at Tarkowski because he has a home fixture against Sheffield United, which is fine. Or let's say Ben Dunk. I don't expect a clean sheet from Brighton in any of the 2 fixtures, but I mean, he has some goal threat, so he can afford to go there. My preference in that case out of the 2 would probably be Tarkowski because I think there's a better chance of 1 clean sheet. But I sort of hear you with this dilemma.
Yeah, it's the fact Saleh's got a Newcastle slot available. I'd happily go there. But for those that have got all those teams covered with triple ups like me, you're forced with if you want to go for a doubler, you're forced with selling Maguire to another Man United defender or selling Maguire to a Brighton defender if you're going just purely for someone on a double game week. The other option is you go, I'm going to go and buy an Arsenal defender if I've got the funds, or I'm going to buy an Everton defender because they've got a good fixture in 37. But if you're chasing the double game week, what do you make, big man, of the Brighton back line? Because Dunk is the most expensive, but at 4.2, you can get Webster, 4.3 Igor. Both aren't nailed to start both games in the double, but they should do.
Yeah, you mentioned the Arsenal defense. I forgot to mention the Arsenal defense. I mean, I have...
You got so lucky.
Arsenal.
How they kept a clean sheet versus Bournemouth.
I mean, you make your own luck in these kind of scenarios. I agree.
Ouch. Mic drop.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I got a bit lucky there, but the decision to have double Arsenal defense, I think it was vindicated. They had the best clean sheet odds this week, and they have the best bookies odds in 38 as well. So, I mean, subconsciously, because I've owned triple Arsenal for so long, that I almost forget that, people have a spare Arsenal start available. I really love the option of going there. I've been saying this all season. White is probably my first preference because he has more attacking threat than Saliba. But if you can't afford White, then Saliba is fine as well. I think they would probably be my picks after, let's say, Guardiola. Because over the next 2 weeks, even though this week's fixture, you might expect United to make a goal. But over the next 2 weeks, I think these options are far better than, let's say, owning someone like a Dunk or Tarkowski or even a Spurs defender for that matter, because as mentioned earlier, it kills the Richarlison option.
Yeah, that's fair enough. We've mentioned Richarlison. We haven't necessarily spoken about why we think he's such a good buy. I mean, he hasn't started in the 3 games he's appeared back. It was surprising not to see him start, I thought, against Spurs. What we saw against Spurs, though, was a brilliant cameo. And surely now, knowing Spurs haven't been functioning, he is good value for 2 starts in the double. He might not get 180, but it will start versus Burnley, and that's the fixture you want him for. He's looking good, big man. When him and Son are on the pitch together, which we haven't seen a huge amount this season because a lot of his good games certainly were when Son was at the Asia Cup. But when they have been on the pitch together, and they have been on the pitch with Son number 9 and Richarlison left, not a huge amount. But now when they're on the pitch together, we only see Richarlison down the middle, Son wide. When that's the case, Richarlison does look like the better FPL asset, especially when you look at the players' price points.
Dude, Richarlison his stats are incredible this season. His XGI is 0.7 per 90, and he's averaging nearly 1 big chance a game. That is elite for someone classified as a midfielder, especially at his price. So his stats are easily the best among all Spurs players this season, like far better than Son, for example, when he starts. Yeah. So I love the option of going there. And, when the lineups were announced at Anfield, I was like, yeah, I might have to sort of go away from the Richarlison plan. Yeah, exactly. But his cameo was so impressive. He's played he's played himself in. He's going to have another week to build his fitness. And I don't think that Ange will Postecoglou will go away from Son, Brennan, and Richarlison, which Richarlison is the 9th, Son on the left, Brennan on the right. I think that sort of picks itself against Burnley with probably Maddison in behind.
Yeah, he did well when he came on too.
I think as of now, I think Richarlison very likely starts the Burnley fixture and the Sheffield United fixture.
Maybe not the City game.
I'm still not convinced whether he plays 2 back-to-back games. So that's a game where I'm sort of skeptical of his minutes.
But he'll
even
feature
if he misses that,
half an hour versus City. You could,
he'll feature.
But you're not expecting much.
He'll feature, but it's a game which I'm sort of happy to like. I'm happy to take the 1 or 2 pointer in that because the prime fixtures are the Burnley and Sheffield United fixtures anyway. So I don't really, I'm not really too bothered about his minutes over there. If I'm being honest, I have that game down as a write-off anyway. And the main thing for me is that he has Sheffield United in 38. So because this week I think Bruno could well outscore him, but in game week 38 I am very confident that Richarlison outscores him. So that transfer over 2 weeks should be fine.
Who would you bench in 38? 38. You got 8 good forwards.
I would bench a Newcastle midfielder for sure.
You'd bench Gordon.
A Newcastle
that might be your transfer though, no?
I'm coming to that, right? So my plan is to have Richarlison for Bruno this week. Then next week I can get in Saka. I want Saka next week. So Saka for Gordon and funded by Isak to Pedro, right? I can then bench
And bench
either
Pedro.
of, either Pedro or let's say Jackson, one of those two. Probably Pedro. Yeah, I can probably bench
Home to
Pedro.
Bournemouth, Jackson, on the final day.
Pedro home to United, equally worse.
Fair.
That's the thing. So yeah, I mean, but it's nice to have a good front eight on the last day, in my opinion, because with a random benching here or there, you want to have that extra flexibility. So
Yeah, for sure.
all my roads sort of lead to Richarlison and Saka in 37 and 38, and I feel sort of comfortable with that. I want to have double Spurs attack against Burnley and Sheffield United.
Yeah, okay. FCH Sean is, look, we're going to talk about Bruno next, but FCH Sean is on free hit, which, by the way, if you've got your triple captain or your free hit or your bench boost, this really is the week to go. 38 can be so difficult with team news and random benchings and stuff like that. So Richarlison, Jackson and Isak on a free hit. Which one would be benched? Well, look, they've all got doubles, so it's so tough. Like, I would not be benching Jackson by any stretch. It's 2 away games for Chelsea, it should be noted. Isak, one of his games is against Man United, but then Richarlison too. I mean, that's a really hard one, big man. Where would you go?
That's tough. I think Isak has to play. He simply has to be in the free hit 11, as far as I'm concerned. I think Isak has to start. The thing is, if I was on a free hit, I would be very, very, very tempted to pick triple City attack, given their upside. I know you're a huge De Bruyne fanboy, and I think this is
100% have all three. 100%
exactly
have De Bruyne. Yeah,
so,
and you can afford it as well.
Yeah, so I'm not exactly like 100% sure about Jackson or Richarlison on a free hit, because if you're picking, let's say, triple City attack, if you're picking Isak, I assume you're going to be picking Gordon as well, because he's cheap to fund the triple City attack. And then you're likely going to have Son too, right? So you don't really have enough space. And then Palmer as well. That's probably the front seven I would have. So in that case, I don't think I'd pick Richarlison or Nico Jackson personally on a free hit.
I would probably not have Gordon. I would go double Newcastle defense on free hit, I think, which would allow that extra attacking spot if Gordon wasn't in the midfield. But yeah, given the choice out of all those, the 3 mentioned, Richarlison, like big man, would be the guy I'd give up. We're going to talk about Bruno next, but Zubin says, is KDB or Gvardiol the 3rd best City asset? And I think we've both just answered that. I mean, on free hit, we would both go De Bruyne. If money's not an issue, we go De Bruyne. For the final day of the season as well, big man, what we are seeing with Man City, and we saw it at the end of last season with so many that owned Edison, and I own Edison at the moment, we're seeing City win games comfortably and concede a soft goal in the second half and the game's already won. And they go and lose 4-1 and Edison's clean sheet goes. We saw it at the weekend. We saw it a ton at the end of last season. Clean sheets are not a guarantee for City in the next 3. I expect them to win those next 3 games comfortably. I don't necessarily expect clean sheets. Obviously, Gvardiol does provide a bit more, though. He has been brilliant, big man.
I mean, I would say that this is typical Edison behavior. He's honestly become a meme at this point. I'm not joking. I mean, I owned him at this point last season, and the guy's just been. It's been a complete disaster because you watch the game and City are dominating for
no
large
XG
periods.
against them. Yeah,
no XG against them. No shots conceded. The other team is barely entering their half, and then what they inevitably do is that they're winning 2 or 3-0. The Pep makes a few substitutions. They sort of turn the gas. Then either they concede a silly goal or either Edison makes a silly mistake. They concede a stupid penalty, something like that, and they always inevitably end up conceding. So I'm used to this movie. I've watched it every single year, every single week. He's been a troll in the past. I guess you just keep him if you own him, but I don't think I'd go there on a free hit. I would, as mentioned earlier, I would go with triple City attack. But if you own him, then I guess you can hope and pray that he gets a clean sheet at some point this season.
Yeah, Edison knows us. I guess we'll go to Bruno because we've said Richarlison. The reason we're bigging up Richarlison, the guy we're looking at maybe selling for him, big man is looking at this move potentially. I might even go there too. So we have to touch on Bruno. I think it's fair to say we were surprised he didn't make last night, big man. Like, I know we saw he was flagged, and I know we had the press conference quotes on Thursday or Friday, whenever it was. But Bruno tends to always just make it. We've seen him pictured in a full leg cast before and make it days later. So that was a little bit surprising. Do we expect him available for double? Because there was no post-match quotes. on Bruno?
I think he'd be fine. Looking at his injury record, the guy barely misses any games.
Yeah.
If you look at his career, I think he'll probably be fine. But again, we have to wait for more conclusive reports. If he's fine, he's a good player to keep. I mean, I expect United to score in the big games. To be very honest, I think they will score against Arsenal. And I mean, if they score, then there's a very big chance that Bruno is likely to be involved. So I think he's a fine hold this week. I don't necessarily like the idea of keeping him in 38. I think I'd probably sell him away to Brighton. They're better midfielders to own, for example, Saka or Richarlison. But if he's not injured, then he's not a priority sell this week.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, interesting. It's 2 homes for Bruno, which do make it tough. Do make it tough with 2 homes. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with Bruno. I think if he's fit, he's still a dangerous sell. So yeah, let's see about that one. Guys in the chat, let us know who you're planning on bringing in this week. I mean, interested to know who is targeting Richarlison. Maybe we should do a poll: Richarlison or Bruno for the double. Who do you prefer? Just in a straight shootout, who gets more points, Richarlison or Bruno in double game week 37? Big man, I guess we should have a quick look at your team. We've still got half an hour of the show left.
I think the poll is going to be very close, but I think a more fair comparison would be if you look at them over the next 2 game weeks. I'm pretty sure Richarlison should beat Bruno.
Yeah, okay. Let's go 37 and 38. Good shout. Let's change that question to who would you rather own combined in 37 and 38? Which one? You're right. I would prefer Richarlison because of the 38 fixture too, mate. That does swing it. Afternoon to the Indian football coach, Gary, Fatal, Off-Course Psychopath, FPL Joe, B-Ball, Andrew, all in the house. Big man, this is your team. Talk us through it.
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, I think I've been very sort of fortunate with getting away with no injuries. Dalo's been a complete disaster, but in a way, he's been all right as well because I don't necessarily have to use a transfer Maguire, which means that I can go for Richarlison this week. And Bruno to Richarlison is likely to be the transfer that I go for this week. I am content keeping both Gabriel and White despite the fact that they have a single fixture this week because none of the other defenders really appeal. As mentioned earlier, Guardiola is the only one I would have gotten. But because I already have Triple City, I don't want to use 2 free transfers to sort of limit my flexibility. I want to have that extra free transfer in Game Week 38 to navigate any concerns that come. And Arsenal, they have the best fixture in Game Week 38 for clean sheet according to the bookmakers odds. So I think keeping the Arsenal defense makes a lot of sense on paper. My plan, if everything goes well in 38, is to get Saka in for Gordon, funded by, let's say, Isak to João Pedro. That would give me 8 attackers in 38. And in case there's a random benching here or there, for example, if City have the title wrapped up and if Foden ends up being benched, then it won't be a problem for me to address. I think the defense in 38 sort of picks itself with double Arsenal and Porro.
Yeah.
And Edison in goal as well. So it gives me a strong defense. I'll have Arsenal. I'll actually have triple Arsenal. I'll also have Saka. I'll have double Spurs attack. I think my team in 38, if everything goes well, will be strong. And in 37, it looks decent as well. I'm hoping I can then sort of have a good crack at the top 10K finish, which has been my aim for the start of the season. It's gone really well. I mean, I'm not going to complain. But let's say if I can, crack the target that I've been trying to achieve since ages.
Yeah, I think with your Richarlison punt, it's definitely possible. Before the Richarlison punt, maybe it's not because your team's too similar to a lot of those others around you at sort of 15 to 20K. But with Richarlison, it's a huge chance of getting in the top 10K. He could be the difference maker you need. So I completely get that thinking. Final day of the season, defence picks itself to Arsenal, Pedro Porro. But you do have Dan Burn away to Brentford. And knowing you've got Dan Burn away to Brentford, you could start him on the final day if you sacrificed and Porro and one Arsenal defender and sell an Arsenal defender for the double, big man. I just wonder for 37.
But who for?
Well, that's my that's my question. Knowing you've got the luxury of the transfers, you could still bring in a Saka. No, you couldn't. You need 2 transfers to bring in Saka because you need an enabler. But if You can still bring in
Okay.
Richarlison and sell an Arsenal defender. Is that an option?
I mean, none of the Brighton defenders, none of the Everton defenders really appeal. And I think I would rather have the Arsenal defense for the game against United and for the Everton game in particular, especially given their attacking threat. I think, let's say, if I decide for some reason not to go ahead with the Bruno to Richarlison transfer, I think my transfer in that case would probably be Dalot to Van der Ven, because
Right.
that would give me a third. I think I need to have a third Spurs this week because of the Burnley fixture and then the Sheffield United fixture.
Yeah.
And
So
I have zero faith in Dalot doing anything.
you'd sell Dallo over Gabriel or White.
Exactly,
Yeah,
because
I hear that.
their fixtures. Because of
Could
their
be minus
fixtures.
points for Dallo.
Yeah, I mean, I have zero hopes from the guy. And then at the same time, I can get a triple Spurs player. So, but again, the reason why I'm not doing that is because when I look at Burnley and Sheffield United, they seem better fixtures from an attacking point of view, and B, because I would rather bet on the Spurs attack than the Spurs defense, because the Spurs defense, frankly speaking, does not inspire me with any confidence at all. I mean, I know United's defense isn't great, but it's not as if that I'm going to a much superior defense in the form of Spurs. I mean, it's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire. So I would rather not do that. Might as well treat myself to a differential in the form of Richarlison and then hope for the best in game week 37 and 38.
Yeah, I like that move. Guys, Big Man is on bench boost. I know it doesn't say necessarily here, but we have spoken about it at length. So if you're just tuning in, this is a bench boost team. I'm just thinking outside the box. I'm not suggesting this is what I do by any stretch, but another way of getting Richarlison could be Gordon out to Richarlison and then Dallo to a Newcastle defender, because I do think Newcastle defense there's points there. Dallo's rubbish. It means you get to keep Bruno. But Gordon, I completely understand. There's an upside with those fixtures too, but it allows you then to shift from double Newcastle attack to double Newcastle defense. And I'm pretty sure you've got the funds to do that.
The reason why I don't like that is because it would make it would reduce flexibility. Firstly, that I'll lose out on an extra free transfer that I want to have in 38. And I think Newcastle will concede in both fixtures in game week 37 anyway.
Do you reckon they will?
I think they will personally.
I'm not
and
sure
Gordon,
I think
Gordon on all set pieces. I think Gordon on all set pieces against United, Brighton. I want to keep Gordon for sure. I don't see any reason to sell him this week. Then I can easily pivot away from him next week. But I think he is a good enabler to have this week. In
but
isolation,
I think Gordon.
Good? I think Gordon is better than Bruno this week, personally.
Yeah, fair enough. I think
Bruno's fine, but I would rather go with Gordon.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. Gordon, remember, got the assist at the weekend. Very easily could have had a second assist when Isak missed the penalty. It was Gordon that went down, so would have got the assist.
Just the fact that he's on set pieces in Trippier's absence is really, really crucial.
Yeah, although Trips could
Newcastle
be back, right?
A good team from set pieces.
Trips won't make the first game of the double. He could be back for maybe 38, or second game of 37.
Yeah.
He's apparently returned to full team training this week, or due to. He was in Dubai training last week.
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Overall, I believe I'm in a good position right now, where I can sort of address any concerns that come up. And to be very honest, Bruno to Richarlison is a luxury transfer that I'm making this week.
Yeah.
It could backfire, but that's the game we play.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to sell what you think is a really good FPL option that weekend, but just for a better one. The beauty of making transfers in 37 and 38, Big Man, is certainly next week's transfers, is you can do them guilt-free just for that 1 week without having to suffer the consequences later down the line. Because usually when you make that transfer, it's like you can feel strongly that week, but you go, what about if it is wrong and I need to rectify it in 3 weeks' time? You haven't got to do that. So 38 is a great example for where you can go, I'm happy selling a Son and a Bruno and a Gordon to get a Salah and a Havertz, because it's just that 1 week, and I'm betting that those players beat those players for that 1 week only. But look, there's loads to digest ahead of 38. We've got to get to 37 first. And again, this week could pull up surprises. Every week recently, there's been an announcement of an injury in a press conference, usually a sort of highly owned player. So we just don't know what's around the corner. No one expected Bruno to miss the game on Monday night, and he did. So yeah, we'll watch this space. We've seen Foden benching recently through injury, illness. We saw Palmer miss a game through illness. So we don't know what's around the corner. Let's just talk about Chelsea though, big man. For those that aren't on double Chelsea attack, there's an argument to even be thinking, if you're on free hit, for example, I mean, it might be tough with places, but the way Chelsea are attacking right now, the likes of Madueke are a great FPL differential. Like, I've tipped Madueke to death in the last month, and he's finally come good.
I mean, he's great, but he's. I think for people who are chasing, it makes a lot of sense, especially on a free hit. But again, in isolation, when you compare him to the likes of Palmer, Gordon, Son, Foden, the template basically, it's very sort of hard to justify him over the template picks.
Yeah.
I think he's a good differential though. If you want to sort of, take a calculated risk, maybe pick him over Gordon in a one-off double game week. Who knows? Chelsea could do well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Jackson, by the way, as well. Thank you very much.
Jackson
for those
has been a hero.
Jackson
has been a hero.
Because he's only around 40% owned at our ranks as well, big man, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the main reasons why I got a big green this week. And I needed some positive variance after the game week 35 wildcard. And Jackson was a big part of that. And then, both of us actually played Bruno over Son. I was very happy to see him miss out last night and take Son's 7-pointer. I would have taken that any day of the week.
Yeah. All I regret now is watching the second half of the Spurs-Liverpool game, praying that Son missed stuff. And now I'm thinking I should have been cheering.
I was the same. I was proper pissed when he scored.
Yeah, me too. I was like, straight away, check the bonus points. I was like, please don't put him in bonus. It didn't. He was actually nowhere near the bonus. Yeah. Excuse me, probably as expected because he didn't create a ton. Geddy, one of our favourites, our chasers, our regulars, has kindly sent a super chat. Geddy is smashing it this year. He's at 12k. Similar rank to you, big man. Similar decision. But unlike you, he doesn't have the luxury of the free transfers. So I'm assuming he's got a transfer out he has to make, like, say, Maguire or a share. And his other one, he's thinking, does he do Bruno out Richarlison for a 4-point hit? That is a very different question to what you're faced with, which is doing Bruno out, Richarlison in for free with your 2 frees. And remember, big man has to use a transfer this week. Would you do it for a -4 though, big man?
Which other players is he selling? Maguire?
I don't know. Geddy, let us know. I'm guessing it's Maguire or share.
Yeah, exactly. Because I see a lot of people in the same situation where they sort of want to pivot away and get a Spurs player in for one of their injured players in Bruno.
He's got Share and Maguire on bench boost. Oh wow. Okay, so yeah, he's having to sell them both, Share and Maguire. So he's got 2 free transfers. He's doing that, and then does he make the -4?
I mean, it's a very tough question to address, and I think if you ask, let's say, the F-Field community, the majority of people will probably say no, which is fine. At this stage of the season, it is very hard to justify taking hits because there's not a lot of time left. Especially if Bruno's out injured, I think I would make that move in a heartbeat for a hit, especially if Bruno's out injured. If he's fit, it is trickier to justify, but if you're chasing ground, I would still lean towards doing it personally because of the upside that Richarlison has against Burnley and Sheffield United.
Yeah, I would, Geddy. Big man mentions what would the FPL community say, and yeah, he's got the 2 frees as we thought. So Geddy, let's put it to the test. Let's do a poll and see what the chasers think. We'll ask the question: Bruno to Richarlison for a -4, and if we do that, I think it's going to be pretty split. What I would say, Geddy, is what does your 38 team look like? Are you going to be faced with putting Bruno on the bench in 38, for example? Because in my team, there's a good chance Bruno will be benched in 38. What does that then do if Richarlison's in the 11? Who are you benching instead? I'd look at 38 as well, because it'd be worth it, I think, if you think Richarlison is going to be in your 38-11 and, of course, bench boost. There is still the big question over Richarlison's minutes, though. Big man is right. He'll start against Burnley almost certainly, but will he start versus Man City? The turnaround for games isn't bad. Tottenham play Saturday, and then is it Tuesday or Wednesday for the midweek City game, and then it's Sunday. So it's 3 games in 8 days. It's not a 3 in 7, which it is for some teams. For example, Man United and Arsenal of 3 in 7, or Man United of 3 in 7.
It's a Saturday, Wednesday turnaround, which is relatively kind.
Oh no, Saturday, Tuesday it is. Saturday, Tuesday, yeah.
Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
Then it's not great. Then it's not amazing, but it's. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't think it's amazing in that case. But then if he's playing, let's say if he plays on Tuesday, then he's very likely to play the next
Sunday.
fixture, which is Sunday. So that's why I think that he starts Burnley and Sheffield United, and the City fixture is a big question mark. But it's fine even if he misses out. Being honest, Gianni, I forgot to ask you. I've sort of given my thoughts on my team, and you've sort of cross-questioned me on every talking point.
Every
What do
possibility.
you think? Every possibility, even the remote possibility. What would you do if you sort of had the same team?
I'd be doing the transfer I think you'll end up doing. I'd be rolling one transfer and the other one I'd be Bruno out for Richarlison, regardless of Bruno's injury. I just think Richarlison's upside's too big to ignore, especially given the fact your target is 10k and you're so close to it. But you're probably going to struggle to get there with the current team, with Haaland captain in both weeks, because I do think there's a ton of managers around you that have also wildcarded that also have that same front eight.
Exactly.
And you don't have... You could argue, in fact, on wildcarders, if anything, I'd say your team is slightly weaker this week than a wildcard team, just because you've got a Dalot and 2 Arsenal defenders. Like, you could compare that with, say, me that's got double Spurs defence, which is, sounds weird saying it, is slightly stronger because of the Burnley fixture. So I think to get top 10k, Richarlison makes complete sense, mate. I like that shout, and I'm jealous.
Yeah, thanks. I think I need a bit of confirmation bias to do this, but it's not exactly a template move. I don't think a lot of people will be going there.
No, your move's not template by going with Richarlison. What I'm saying is your team is currently very template at your rank.
I got
Therefore,
it,
to get 10k
obviously it's
could be
popular.
tough.
Yeah, my team is very similar to what most people picked on Game Week 38 wildcard. So I completely hear you. And I do need some attacking differences to make up that ground, if you know what I mean. A brace from Richarlison here or there could be the difference between, let's say, a top 15k and a top 10k finish.
Yes, exactly that. Because, 16k to 10k doesn't sound much, but when you work that out in percentage terms, I mean, how often do you get a 40% green arrow? Rarely, right? You need that in 2 weeks. So,
yeah, even with the bench boost, I mean, because around 80% of the top 10k have the bench boost left, so it's going to be very hard to make ground. I mean, I think a very realistic finish for me is going to be around the 12-13k mark. That's something which I've sort of made peace with and what I'm expecting. But I mean, I might as well have a shot at it.
Last season, I finished 16k, and I feel like I was like 18k with a couple of weeks to go, and I was exactly like you, being like, I can get top 10k. And because of it, I went really differential. Do you remember everyone bought in Harry Kane and captained him on the last day?
I remember, yeah. Leeds.
Did he play Leeds away?
Yeah,
and I remember
Leeds.
going, if I do that, I can't get top 10k. So I didn't do it.
You went Salah?
No, I went Gabby Jesus. I bought in Gabby Jesus, who played Wolves at home.
Really well.
The pressure was off because title was already lost. And when the pressure's off Arsenal at home to a middling team, just like in Game Week 38 against Everton this year, they're going to go and win 5-0. Gabby Jesus didn't quite reach Kane levels. He, I think, got two involvements. And I went from 80k to 16k. But I gave myself a shot. Like Gabby Jesus, if Kane had blanked or Gabby Jesus had got one more attack and return, that could have been a 30-40% green arrow. And I think with Richarlison, this is really similar. You're buying a similarly owned player and you're giving yourself a shot.
Exactly. I'm just hoping I can get some positive variants and then let's see where we go from there. Let's take some questions from our listeners. We have around 10 minutes. Let's take some questions.
Yeah, good
Everyone,
idea.
guys, send in your questions. We'll try and answer as many as possible in the next 10 minutes.
Oh, Andy, go Romero. Go Romero. He's got some goal threat, and I know Royale will start both, but yeah.
Easily the best Spurs defender to own with his goal threat.
Yeah.
After Porro.
Zay, we're going to disagree on this one. I'm probably going to buy Havertz, and he's probably going to buy Saka.
That's right. You guessed it right. I mean, I like Havertz, but I think Saka is a notch above. Penalty swing it from me.
What we both like is the idea of buying an Arsenal attacker in 30.
Yeah, Livermento is fine. Stefan is asking, what do you think about Livermento? Livermento is fine. I think he should play both fixtures because, as Gianni mentioned earlier, we're not entirely sure whether Trippier makes this week at all. And with their injuries, I think Livermento is fine. I think even Emil Kraft isn't a bad option, but I think I would rather go with Livermento for that slight safety. Have to bench one of Son or Gordon? Oh, that's tough. I would probably bench Gordon.
We forget
Are you
because we're
sure
on
you
bench
want to
boost.
bench one of them?
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
he
I'm
might
sure
have
you have some better
might have
attackers.
the team that we've got, and if we weren't on bench boost this week, big man, we'd have to bench Son or Gordon, wouldn't we? Who would we
I
be
would bench
benching? Well, we'd be
Jackson
benching
in that case.
or
Yeah,
Bruno.
I would bench
We'd be
Jackson.
benching. I'd be benching Bruno over Son or Gordon.
Yeah, maybe Jackson or Richarlison, one of the two.
Yeah, given the choice out of
I
those two,
definitely
Phil,
wouldn't be benching Son or Gordon.
I think
I
I'm with
think from
Big Man
those two,
here.
I
There'll
would
be
bench
someone
Gordon,
else.
but it's not something I would advise.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
there'll be
has to be someone else. I would
I
advise
look
benching
at,
Gordon.
I look at Bruno if you've got him. Toby's got 5.2 to replace Van Heck. Dunk is 5.2 or 5.1. Already triple Newcastle and triple Tottenham and Gab. Well, go Chelsea defender.
No, I mean, Guardiola is more expensive than 5.2, right?
He's
I assume
4.
he can't go there. He might not.
No, he's not. He's cheaper than
He's
5.2. He's
cheaper than
5.1 or 5,
5.2.
wasn't he? Yeah, he was 4.9 when we wildcarded.
He must have risen in price since then. He's 5.1. Yeah, so you can afford him. I mean, assuming you have a City spot available, I would definitely go Guardiola.
yeah,
If you don't
same.
have a City spot available, then it's trickier. It's very tricky in that case. I think I would go with Tarkowski.
Yeah. We should Everton defense. A decent
Home to
option.
Sheffield United.
Oh, what do we make of Callum Wilson? He's and Isak in the 11 together last time out, both getting points. I'm not convinced they're both going to start every game, and I think Isak will. I wouldn't be punting on Wilson. I know it worked last year. I went Wilson over Isak. I just don't know if I like it this year for minutes. Big man.
I mean, we were having this exact same discussion, I think, last year as well. Most of the content creators and we all had a big question mark on Wilson's minutes. I agree with you. I mean, it's not something I would advise. I mean, I agree with you. Yeah, it's not something I would recommend because of the minutes risk personally. But I mean, if he starts, I think he's likely going to be on penalties because Isak missed the previous one. And if both Isak and Wilson are playing and Wilson's playing through the middle, I generally prefer Wilson. It's not something I would completely put you off, but like if you're trailing by a big margin and if you sort of understand the risks, then you can go for it. I won't personally advocate it though, like Gianni.
It's Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, the Newcastle fixtures. 8 days. Isak's going to start them all. It's just, do you think Wilson would as well? Ayub, 2 Arsenal defenders in 37. Well, yeah, Big Man's doing it. And you said earlier you prefer an Arsenal defender to Dalot, and I think I agree.
I do, irrespective of the double, and what swings it for me is the Game Week 38 fixture.
Yep. Best Brighton defender apart from Dunk. Well, 4.3 Igor or 4.2 Webster. Big man, who do you prefer? Because for me, Igor is higher up the pecking order than Webster. And Igor can play centre-back and left-back. He started at left-back in a back 4 the weekend just gone. Webster played centre-back with Dunk. But there is a world in which, is it Barco, the South American left-back comes in? And if he does come in and get some minutes, then Igor could either lose his spot or Igor could play centre-back, which would mean Webster loses his spot.
I mean, to be very honest, I think I personally won't recommend a Brighton defender apart from Dunk because the minutes are going to be at risk, as you mentioned, because De Zerbi especially is a manager who loves rotating, especially at this stage of the season with nothing to play for. I mean, I won't be going there personally. Dunk is the only one I would consider. If you don't have the funds for Dunk, I would rather go with the Tarkowski, honestly. I mean, personally, I would rather go with Tarkowski over Dunk anyway, but
wow,
I won't recommend a Brighton defender if you're not getting Dunk.
Wow, I'm buying a Brighton defender, so I was hoping you wouldn't say that, big man. And I'm torn between Igor and Webster. Part of the reason I'm going there is Aston Villa clocked 0.06 XG in the entire match versus Brighton. That defense was on lock. Now, I'm not expecting a clean sheet, but you just might get lucky. Super chat. Bruno, if he isn't fit, 8 Nori to Richarlison. Oh, hang on. Oh, okay, so 3 transfers. Bruno, 8 Nori, 2 transfers to Richarlison.
Yeah, 2 transfers, yeah.
I don't know why I'm struggling to read this question so much. Big man.
He's basically saying that Bruno, if he isn't fit, and it Nuri to Richarlison and either of the Newcastle defenders. I prefer Burn over Livramento if that's what he's trying to ask. Burn is probably better for his goal threat. For a -4, yes, I think it's worth it. It should be worth it, especially if Bruno's not fit. It should be a no-brainer.
This is why we can't take these questions unless they're on Super Chat. Thank you, Kay. No, I do appreciate you sending it in. Thank you.
Much appreciated.
Oh,
yeah.
no, with Gambles is even worse. Big man, another one for you, mate.
Gamal is asking, I'm around 30 ahead in most of my minis, 25 points of top 10K. I'm thinking of going against the doubles, maybe Dallon, Flecking, De Bruyne, and Raya. I have Salah. Do I move to a doubler? I mean, this is the biggest double game week of the season. So you're effectively giving yourself the best chance of making the top 10K by going all in on the doublers. I mean, I completely hear you when you say that, you're selling, a double game weeker like a Dallo for single game weeker. But I mean, I would rather go with as many doublers as possible, personally.
Ross says, play White, Trent, or bring in a cheap Newcastle. Oh, play Trent. Always play Trent. Trent has upside like no other. He just scored a free kick 2 weeks ago.
Play Trent, White, or bring in a cheap Newcastle. I don't think you have to use a transfer to bring one of those two in, especially when you've got options like White and Trent. I don't think that's worth a transfer. You can play any of the two. Who are Liverpool playing this week? Liverpool are playing Villa away. Oh, that's a difficult fixture.
Yeah, but it's Trent.
That is a difficult fixture.
And Liverpool and Villa are back off that. They're travelling to, is it Olympiacos on
Trent,
Thursday night? They're travelling to Greece.
Yeah.
It's a
I would marginally prefer Trent over White, but I think either is fine. Any updates on Pope for the double? Not yet. We haven't heard anything recently on that. I think that's that, Johnny.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, with Pope, I reckon you might get something out of him for 38, but definitely don't be banking on him for the double. And Eddie Howe isn't a manager that's going to tell us. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We've got 300 of you in the chat. If you could do me a favor, there are lurkers out there that haven't clicked subscribe. They watch us all the time and they go, I just don't need to bother subscribing because I just know I can find you. There's no harm in subscribing, team.
And please leave your feedback in the comments as well. That would be much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Big Man, for adding that. Guys, if you're watching on Catch Up, we also love you very much. We appreciate all of you in the chat too. Likes and subscribes on the way out. But for now, and we will be back next week with our last show of the season. Oh, we've got a super chat come in. We will stay with you because Kay says 19 points off the top 100K. Taking the hit I mentioned, will it make it difficult? Oh, well, the hit you mentioned was...
I think he mentioned the Bruno, if not fit, to Richarlison. But, and he was selling some defender for a Newcastle defender as well. So, but if Bruno's not fit, then the hit should pay off in isolation. Yeah. And, irrespective of whatever your rank is, go for the strategy which optimizes your team and maximizes your points is what I'll say. And if Bruno's not fit, selling him for Richarlison for a hit makes a lot of sense for your team.
Yeah, Kay, I like that shout. I think it's aggressive play, and it's play you might need to make the difference with that next threshold, as it might for Big Man. Guys, we're wrapping up. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care. Dean and I'll be back on Friday. Bye-bye.